The anime begins with two girls chasing a man dressed in a sack and hat. Upon falling through a hole, the man transforms into a muscular monster and tries to attack the girls with his tongue. While defending themselves, one of the girls calls the other Veronica, while Veronica introduces herself as Ninochika. After Veronica and Ninochika dodge the attack, a purple circle cuts off the monster's tongue, revealing another girl entering the room. A man with an eye patch appears, and the girls refer to him as the boss. Meanwhile, a boy wakes up in his room, and Veronica and Ninochika pass by outside his window. In a classroom, the boy talks to himself, leading to the teacher scolding him. We discover the boy's name is Chuda. Chuda joins his class for a cooking lesson, where he impresses others with his knife skills. The cooking group invites him to join their club. As he converses, a voice in Chuda's head reveals what others are thinking. This causes him to speak aloud, leaving his classmates astonished. Leaving the classroom, Chuda talks about hearing a constant voice. He thought he wasn't the only one, but over time, he realized otherwise. In the hallway, a teacher named Sayatome scolds Chuda, and Misuzu exits the classroom, accusing Chuda of being a pervert who deserves to die. Taityan invites Chuda to karaoke, and Chuda leaves school to visit his Aunt Mimi's cupcake store. Mimi, who raised Chuda, welcomes him with a hug. Chuda explains that Mimi is his guardian since he has no parents. A person observes Chuda and uses an oscillation field to transport him to another room. Two people notice Chuda walking alone. As he walks, Chuda finds himself in a room full of monsters. A man named Lane Brick enters and informs Chuda that he is in LDLIV, the space police. Lane, the station chief, explains that Chuda was chosen by mothers, computer entities that select individuals based on their qualities. Lane reveals they are in Jinranoi R. Chuda is given a spacesuit and released into space to see his surroundings better. In space, Chuda sees Earth, the spaceship he was on, and various unknown life forms. Lane instructs Chuda to take an exam to join LDLIV. Chuda refuses, so Lane threatens to release his suit's oxygen. A girl, presumably Misuzu, tells Lane that Chuda could be a problem for the organization and might be investigated in the future. Chuda argues that they can't judge him until he tries. He receives a badge, and the exam involves handcuffing a Type C criminal. Chuda is sent back to Earth, where he investigates people. Lane monitors him, and Hari approaches Lane, informing him that Chuda has an unusual heat distribution. Sadom and Taityan are walking down the street. Chuda's voice detects the smell of grease when these two people appear. The voice tells him that Sadom does boron and smells like grease. Upon hearing this, Sadom takes an aggressive stance, and we see her transform into a monster. Sadom threatens Chuda with Taityan's death. Chuda becomes frustrated, recalling things from the past. Taityan is choked by Sadom. Chuda starts having thoughts that he doesn't try anything because of fear of making mistakes. We see that Chuda's voice begins to feel something strange. At the same time, Lane's team on the ship finds that Chuda's SPH levels are increasing. After shouting, Chuda summons a technique, and a kind of cat emerges from his body. This cat has a gem, which is an emblem of the lost Griffeyes. Lane says it can only be a monotalian. They explain that these are sentinels sent throughout the universe. This voice that came to life tells Chuda that the way to send attacks is by using imagination. Chuda imagines that he can sow the monster, and thus he manages to stop it. Lane observes that what we are seeing is an evolved monotalian and a human capable of using its power. Chuda returns to the ship and passes the exam. We see that a girl opposes this, and this girl is Misuzu. Misuzu is playing tennis and easily wins. The girls and boys are surprised by her ability. Misuzu continues to think that Chuda should disappear. Lane tells her that Misuzu has been observing Chuda for a while. Misuzu doesn't want Chuda to join the forces because he is a pervert. While Chuda talks to Taityan, the cat inside Chuda wants to speak, but Chuda avoids it. Chuda is hit by a ball in his private parts and ends up on a stretcher. While lying in bed, his voice speaks and Chuda names it Doru. Chuda gets angry and tries to choke Doru, but in doing so, he also chokes himself since they share the same body. Misuzu enters the room and again makes negative comments. Misuzu goes to Eldliv as they were called for a job, but Chuda wants to stay in class. Doru, upon hearing this, asks if he's not going to follow her, convincing Chuda to go with Misuzu. Chuda follows Misuzu, and upon reaching a room, a strange creature named Chips appears, inviting Chuda inside. Chips makes the three of them go to the Eldliv base. Lane appears and falls asleep upon seeing Doru and Chuda. He orders Misuzu to show Chuda around the base. After showing most of the base, they reach the research center where they will be working. Lane mentions that 20 people are working there. Upon reaching the cells, they learn that criminals have another chance and are not sentenced to death but can recover. Chuda starts talking to Doru, and they get lost in the base. Meanwhile, in the cells, one of the criminals is trying to escape. An alarm sounds as a criminal escapes from a cell. This criminal went to Earth. Misuzu explains that the escaped criminal is a lightning assassin who has escaped 3 times. The criminal quickly appears, and Misuzu begins to fight with him. Misuzu tries to talk to the criminal to resolve things peacefully, but the criminal refuses. The criminal appears from a tree and tries to assassinate a woman. Chuda prevents this and attacks the criminal but fails to harm him. The criminal tries to attack Chuda, but Doru stops the attack. Misuzu appears and cuts off one of the criminal's arms. She transforms into an angel and quickly finishes the criminal. Other Eldlive members appear, and Misuzu tells them that Chuda is leaving the group. The woman thanks Chuda for saving her life. After this, Doru registers that something changes in Chuda's attitude, similar to when he accepted his existence. Misuzu keeps insisting that Chuda wants to leave, but he refuses. Lane is in a meeting with superiors who show him a symbol found after the death of a criminal. Chuda on the ship asks Isaku if the badge, handcuffs, and uniform are all they are going to give him. Chuda wanted a weapon, and Isaku tells him it wouldn't work because space criminals don't fight like those on Earth. Chuda asks Isaku what the mysteries of existence are. Isaku responds that they are the SPH, a body odor that cannot be sensed by Earthlings. Misuzu enters the room, and Chuda sees her underwear. Doru realizes this and says it, so Misuzu hits Chuda. Doru realizes that Chuda is more active thanks to people praising him. A criminal robs a ladies' store, and Chuda tries to stop him, but in doing so, he breaks the window of his Aunt Mimi's store. Mimi ends up in the hospital, and Chuda stays with her. Chuda leaves the room, and we see Doru starting to disappear. Doru explains that if Chuda denies himself, his body begins to fade away. Misuzu appears and punishes him for using his power in everyday life. After the incident, Chuda returns home and considers leaving Live. Mimi wakes up from rehabilitation, sees that Chuda visited her and brought her food. While eating, Mimi tells a version of the story that did not happen that way, so Chuda realizes that his memories have been altered. Besides this, Mimi notices that Chuda is getting happier every day. He returns to the ship with Misuzu, and Lane gives them free time. They decide to investigate the person who robbed the store earlier. Chuda wants to stop him without investigating. Chips gets angry because the reason for this is to help his aunt open the store. Chuda approaches the Lunar Man and asks for help in finding SPH records. They start looking for SPH records near Chuda's house. Apparently, these SPH numbers are very high. Chuda goes to tell Lane that the thief turned out to be a murderer. Lane tells him that it's a case already under investigation, and Chuda wants to participate in this investigation. Lane asks for the reason he wants to participate. Chuda, about to say that the reason is his aunt, Doru stops him and tells him he can't disclose personal motives. For this reason, Chuda starts giving a different reason than the real one. Due to the reason he gives, Lane lets him go to stop the criminal. We discover that what this criminal was stealing was chewing gum because, for his species, it is a great stimulant. Lane explains that chewing gum is not a simple resource but a scarce one for them. They show the image of a truck being driven by a criminal. Upon seeing it, they notice the reflection of Mount Fuji in the mirror and deduce its current location. They are sent to the location. Misuzu tells Chuda that he can stay while she investigates. Doru detects the smell of gum, and they decide to investigate. Chuda and Doru encounter the Gumshonian. He has a small truck, and Chuda tries to stop him, but it has a shield around it that prevents Chuda's attacks. The criminal sticks to Misuzu's mouth, and Chuda comes up with a way to remove him and prevent her from drowning. Upon stopping him, a red trail appears on the criminal, and he explodes. Exploding, a mark appears on the ground, which is the same as the one seen in Lane's meeting. Chuda goes to see his aunt, and Taetian was already in the hospital with her. When leaving the room, Taetian tells him that he dreamed of Chuda saving him, and Chuda tells him it was just a dream. Mimi sees them talking outside and starts crying for the friend she made. Back at the base, Chuda's initiation ceremony begins. We see memories of Chuda when he was a child. He meets 4 friends, and one of them was supposed to move but ultimately doesn't. Nonetheless, all his friends brought memories and decided to put them in a box and bury them to see them after 10 years. Chuda starts digging to find the box. Doru tells us that these 3 friends disappeared suddenly. Chuda takes advantage of being close and offers offerings to the graves of his friends. Doru tells him that Mimi cried for 3 months after what happened. A ceremony to start the month begins, but Misuzu and Doru fall asleep during it. Chips communicates with Chuda and says that their fainting is an emergency. We see a robot approaching, saying that it is Misuzu's mother, and this robot is being controlled by Chips. After the two leave, some students who were there say that they rebelled. Isuku investigates what happened and says that they could be sleep-inducing SPH. Chuda asks how long he will be naked in the tube, and Isuku tells him they have to stay that way until they finish the investigation, hinting that Misuzu is also naked. Chuda wants to see Misuzu, but Isuku tells him he can't because the tubes can't be seen from the outside and also have microphones connected to each other, so Misuzu heard everything. Lane tries to find out the reason they fainted. They tell us it's a rare case since there was no SPH signal on the radar. Lane says they found two new students and must not lose sight of them. Isuku gives them some anti-sleeping pills. Chip makes Misuzu and Chuda do some training. In this training, they must destroy targets with SPH. While Chuda starts at level 1, Misuzu asks to start with level 20 and easily knocks it down. Chips tells them to be careful because he accidentally set it to level 100. Misuzu stops Chuda at school because he has binoculars to investigate the new students, and that would be very suspicious. Once in the classroom, the teacher is about to introduce a new student. This student bears a striking resemblance to Gucci, Chuda's old friend who died in the accident. Despite this, he introduces himself as Mikio Narita. Chip sees that this new entry was not planned, and there is no record of this Mikio, so he tells them to investigate. This new student leaves the classroom, and Chuda decides to follow him. When stating his home address, it turns out to be the same as Gucci's former residence. Chip follows Chuda with the robot and encounters two other students who want to stop him. Chip tries to use an attack but accidentally presses the button to exit the robot. They try to track the SPH of Chuda, Chip, and Misuzu, but they find no traces. We see Demel's ship using a beam to prevent SPH from being traced on Earth. Misuzu finds Chip lying on the ground. When she grabs him, the two students who left him like that put Misuzu to sleep. Meanwhile, Mikio asks Chuda how he manages to stay so calm after his childhood friends died in the fall, thus confirming that he is Gucci. Chuda wants to greet Gucci, but he hits him. While hitting him, Gucci tells Chuda that he was the one who threw them off the cliff. Gucci begins to tell his version of the events and blames him for the death of their friends. Gucci tells us that when falling and being under the rocks, a lightning bolt appeared and saved his life. A group of people approaches where they are talking, and without thinking, Gucci throws a bomb at them, killing them. We see Gucci with Demel's symbol and reveal that he is the leader of one of their ships. Gucci tells us that everything that happened in the sleep-inducing SPH high school was done by them and that he wants to steal Doru for its incalculable value. Gucci says he can take Doru without killing him. Doru and Chuda are scared by the situation. Gucci tells him that if he hands over Doru, he will forget what happened on the cliff. Upon hearing this, Doru begins to fade away. Chuda begins to consider handing Doru over since all his troubles would go away by doing so. Although in the end, he doesn't take that path and decides to keep Doru. Chuda decides to defend himself and free his classmates who are hostages. Doru tells Chuda to check Misuzu's pocket, which has the anti-sleeping medicine. With the help of Misuzu, Chuda manages to kill the two criminals who had kidnapped Chip. Misuzu and Gucci start fighting, and Chuda can't do anything as he would get in the way. Gucci manages to knock down Misuzu and wants to kill her. Chuda attacks Gucci where he has Demel's mark, causing him great harm. By destroying this mark, he also destroys a microphone. Gucci tells Chuda that now they can talk calmly since no one is watching them. They decide to go their separate ways, Gucci with Demel and Chuda with LDLIV to look for their other two friends. Gucci tells Chuda not to act like their friends. Gucci manages to escape alive. They discover a possible Demel attack on the LDLIV ship. They were able to recover the radar, but now they are surrounded by several mines that want to impact the ship. Chuda, Misuzu, and Chip arrive at the ship. Chuda comes up with an idea to avoid the mines and decides to send the cat that previously managed to defeat the training robots at level 100. This decision works, but some mines move to a place where they cannot shoot with the lasers. Lane decides to maintain the same angle but fire the L-Maser cannon. By firing the cannon, they reveal the location of the ship. Upon revealing the location, Demel decides to retreat. A person enters a building looking for Dr. Taklamack and Strangelove, and threatens people to kill them if he doesn't come out. When leaving the building with the doctor, it explodes. The man who blew up the building wants to know if the doctor is the real one by using the SPH. They are interrogating Misuzu, and a video is shown where she cuts the cells to let Dragline escape. Upon seeing this, Misuzu faints. They conclude that Misuzu is a spy. We see how many people are outside waiting to be investigated and start debating whether Misuzu is a spy. Doru asks Chuda if he believes in Misuzu despite what he saw on the cameras. Chuda tells him that he trusts her, but Doru doesn't understand why he avoids the truth and still trusts her. Lane is going to a room of the Chief Inspector Bulalugo, but they stop him, saying it's occupied. Lane decides to wait despite this. He chooses to faint the person covering the entrance to Bulalugo's room. Lane requests to see Misuzu, but Bulalugo denies him. Lane wants to medically help Misuzu since she fainted. Bulalugo refuses because one must be level special 50 for that. Lane says she is from the Taklamakan project, surprising Bulalugo. Upon hearing this, Bulalugo agrees to let them help. They start interrogating Chuda. They finish interrogating Chuda. Doru asks Chuda what he's thinking, and Chuda replies that he was thinking about what he was asked before entering. Chuda bumps into a girl on the way out, and her friend wants to help her up. Isuku calls Chuda, and they go to the cells where Misuzu is. Isuku tells him that she lacks the medicine, and that's why she's like this. Chuda asks what medicine. Isuku tells him that it's part of a project, and that's why she has to take medication. In this project, they wanted to change her personality by transplanting SPH generators, and this project was called Tilaklamakan. Isuku tells him this because at some point, he should protect Misuzu. Lane calls Chuda and Isuku to talk. Lane tells them that they have to go find the best scientist in the galaxy, Dr. Love. Lane says that 4 of his doubles have already been killed, and for this reason, the headquarters told them to look for him and defend him. They tell us that Dr. Love is in charge of the Tilaklamakan project, and that's why he can help Misuzu. Lane sends Chuda and Chip to find Dr. Love. Doru asks Chuda again why he believes in Misuzu. Chip wants to join the conversation, but they are quickly ambushed by 2 girls. These girls recognize Chip, and they introduce themselves as Investigation Division 5 of LLIV. Lane begins to have doubts about what is happening since the kidnapping of the doctor and Misuzu's interrogation happened at the same time. Chip introduces the 2 girls. One is named Nina Mikhailovna Pavlova, and the other is Veronica Boroksik. The girls recognize Chuda for being a very skilled earthling. Veronica tells Chuda that by working together, she will see if he really is a skilled novice or not. They start investigating a bar, and Veronica challenges Chuda to lift his head too much and tells him that he can use Doru for that. Nina treats him better and wants him to be okay. Upon entering the bar, they are greeted by a green-haired waiter, and Veronica tells him that his grandfather forgot his hat. After saying this, the waiter takes off his wig, and we see that a double of the doctor is dead. This waiter blocks communication with SPH, and they are surrounded. Veronica starts fighting, and they avoid being surrounded. We see that the waiter was controlling the people and they were just ordinary civilians. Upon revealing this, he asks Veronica where the doctor is, and if he doesn't tell, he threatens to explode the whole place. They don't reveal where the doctor is, so he activates a bomb, but Chuda decides to freeze the bomb to delay the explosion. All the people stand behind Nina, and she prevents the explosion from hitting everyone. Veronica tells Chuda that he is a burden. Once we find the doctor's location, we see that he is dead. Everyone asks who killed the doctor. This person just stands there. The waiter tries to assassinate the one who killed the doctor, but he stops him easily. Upon stopping him, he easily kills him. Veronica threatens this person, telling him to raise his hands. He doesn't resist, and Veronica ties him up. We see that, in the end, the waiter was not dead. Veronica doesn't understand what happened and asks him what he did. He comments that he used an SPH release cannon and that the waiter was a civilian being controlled. We find out that the doctor wasn't dead because of him, and neither is he a corpse, but rather the waste of a body reconstruction. The person talking to Veronica was Dr. Love. Dr. Love is fascinated by Veronica's SPH and starts touching her legs. Chuda starts thinking that he did the same thing with Misuzu. Veronica is about to remove the handcuffs from Dr. Love, but a green ray appears and kills Veronica. This ray comes from Nina, who is being controlled by someone. Chuda decides to confront this controlled version of Nina. Dr. Love is excited to see the confrontation since he wants to see what Doru is capable of. Chuda starts losing confidence, causing Doru to disappear. Veronica tells him to escape since he couldn't defeat her. Chuda wants to stay and help. They start fighting again. They decide to use decoys of Chuda with cables to distract Nina. This doesn't work, and after clashing attacks, Chuda takes a direct hit. We see Doru with half his body injured, so Chuda is in the same condition. Doru decides to believe in Chuda, risking his life to evolve. Doru manages to evolve and remains in Chuda's body. Doru is still unstable, but after Chuda can communicate, everything returns to normal. Dr. Love explains that Chuta redid the symbiosis when Doru was about to abandon him. They try to attack Chuta, but he gains more speed thanks to Doru's update. Veronica has a flashback to when she was talking to Lane. He told her that Chuta has something inside him, and if the operation goes wrong, he'll see it. Due to this power increase, Nina's SPH no longer intimidates Chuta. He easily finishes the girl's attacks and can handcuff her. Dr. Love reveals that Nina had the SPH controlling her 2 hours ago. They discover that the imposter is in the base and is likely the investigator. Lane orders to stop Bulalugo's assistant named Dolly. Dolly murders Bulalugo. We see that Dolly is controlling several people inside the ship. Chuta arrives at the ship and learns that Dolly is controlling several people. Dr. Love tells Chuta that he must quickly go to take care of Misuzu since she is Dolly's target. Lane, thinking about the coincidences, concludes that Misuzu is his target. Dolly reaches the cell where Misuzu is with the intention of stealing her memories. Chuta arrives and stops him. Dolly tries to escape when he realizes he can't beat Chuta. Chuta starts chasing Dolly. They reach the room where the emergency ships should be. But instead of this, there is an opening that leads them to space. Because of this, Dolly dies from suffocation, and Chuta is saved by Lane. The superintendent revokes the charges against Misuzu, and her reinstatement is allowed. The superintendent talks to Dr. Love, who knows him. Dr. Love tells him that he has changed a lot since he used to complain about what bothered him, but now his words are like dirty water. Dr. Love wants to stay in the base. The superintendent tells him that it would be dangerous since they could use him to return Misuzu's memories. Dr. Love claims that everything is a farce and he can make Misuzu recover. Also, he finds Chuta very interesting, so it's another reason to stay. Chuta meets Misuzu again. Chuta has a memory when talking to Lane about what happened with Misuzu, who had that behavior as a side effect of her medicines. Misuzu congratulates Chuta on his work and learns that Doru has been updated. Misuzu tells Chuta that his SPH now stinks. He meets Mimi, who notices a strange attitude in Chuta because he spent an hour in the bathroom and used her perfume for no reason. They gather at the Earth base. Chuta asks Chip if his SPH smells different. He tells him that they always smelled the same. Chip introduces his new team formed by Dr. Love, Nina, and Veronica. They will be part of the school. The teacher presents his new 3 teammates in the classroom. We see that Nina and Dr. Love have already become popular. Chuta keeps imagining how Dr. Love would investigate with Misuzu. Doru always tells him that it won't be like that and takes him out of his imagination to see that all the classmates are looking at him strangely. A friend of Misuzu is imagining Dr. Love and wants to check his backpack. Veronica approaches Misuzu and asks her why she didn't greet her. Veronica challenges Misuzu, saying that she won't beat her in studies or sports. Tatian invited Nina to play bowling. Dr. Love hears this and observes that at that age, they are looking for ways to relate to the opposite sex. Tatian wants to invite Misuzu to play bowling. Chuta tries to invite her, but she refuses. He tries to convince her, saying that Veronica and Nina will be there, but she continues to refuse. Chuta and Misuzu start arguing over the work radio, the SPH smell, and the bowling invitation. Lane hears this. For this reason, he tells them to go bowling, and it's an order. He adds that there is a slight hint of SPH in that place. Instead of playing bowling, they start investigating. Part of the team from the base, including Lane, is at the bowling alley. They start playing bowling. 2 kids grab Chip and start hitting him against the floor. Chip gets sad because he can't play bowling and because of the blows he received. Tatian goes to the bathroom. They start talking among themselves. Veronica and Nina reveal that they can only score points if they make a split. Veronica continues to challenge Misuzu. Veronica explains the reason and says it's due to her winning genes. Dr. Love thinks this is not the case and that it's because of a problem they had in the past. Hearing this, Nina gets nervous, and Misuzu looks at her angrily so she won't reveal anything. At the same time, Veronica approaches with a kick to Chuta to stop him from asking questions. Meanwhile, Tatian is eating dango with Lane. Chip appears with the robot claiming to be Misuzu's mom to play bowling with them. Chip once again presses the wrong button and is ejected from the robot. Chip ends up inside the bowling machine and sees that they are exporting insects from Earth. He tries to investigate by saying he's from Eldliv, but he only manages to be surrounded by criminals. The match between Veronica and Misuzu is about to be decided. Upon throwing, Veronica shouts, "Admire the power of 100% pure Kastonian." Dr. Love hears this and tells her it's not pure because she had artificial organs put in. Veronica gets sad, but Chuta and Nina try to console her. Dr. Love tells us that the ornament Misuzu has on her nose is a symbol of maturity and serves to avoid any odor. He also mentions that it disappears after 3 days. When Misuzu is about to throw, the ornament disappears, and Misuzu smells Chuda, causing her to throw it off. The team discovers where the SPH signal is coming from. Upon entering, we see Chip being worshipped like a king. Back on the ship, Lane explains that the bowling alley was a factory for exporting terrestrial insects. Ikiru Marukobai is in a park talking about how everyone has 3 twins in the world. But in his case, there are too many. A robot similar to Chip's appears, grabbing Marukobai for a group date. Misuzu is investigated, and the SPH that Isuku uses brings back memories of childhood. Isuku asks her if she feels something special, for example, if there's an SPH that she didn't care about before but can't stand now. Dr. Love appears and tells her that Chuda said Misuzu couldn't stand his SPH. Misuzu goes on the defensive, saying this won't affect her duty. Dr. Love just wants her to be honest. Misuzu begins to explain that since the evolution, it's impossible for her to stand the smell. Dr. Love gives her a SPH veil, but Misuzu doesn't like the design. She meets Veronica and Nina in the bathroom. Veronica tells her that what she's wearing is too childish. They meet at the research center. Misuzu approaches Chuda. Chuda tells her to stay away because her smell will make her sick since she doesn't have the nose device. But Misuzu tells him that it's not a problem since it was just a decoration she liked to have. At the research center, we see that all the suspects have the same face and a red hoodie. Chip comments that those aliens who can't maintain their transformation undergo temporary plastic surgery, and that's why they end up with that face. According to Nina, they would have to analyze 152 suspects. Everyone wants to leave, but Chip doesn't want to let them go since it involves all 3 areas. Lane issues a statement about a fire case on Earth. He sends Division 2. They quickly identify the location of the fire, but it is surrounded by police, so they cannot participate in the investigation. They decide to go to a bar that can only be entered with a space passport or LV badge to ask questions. Misuzu tries to interrogate a customer but fails. Seeing that Chuda can do it easily, she gets frustrated and treats her interrogati worse. The robot that looks like Chip appears, and they tell us it's a Mepoliana. She is angry because Misuzu's interrogati was her husband. Chuda quickly solves the problem by talking about clothes. They discover that the culprit has a red hoodie, so it's the same one mentioned earlier. A man behind Chuda and Misuzu appears, who is a police officer, and they begin to interrogate them. Misuzu decides to say that they are a couple to avoid being suspicious. Behind a lamppost is a man in a red hoodie and jeans. Chuda points him out, and this makes the suspect start running. Chuda is about to catch him until he collides with a lamppost. Misuzu manages to intervene, and the suspect starts crying. The suspect did everything to get attention and contact Eldliv because a terrestrial stole his passport. This terrestrial is Marukobai, who is being interrogated by Veronica and Nina. They manage to solve the case. Misuzu meets Isuku, who tells her that he felt pressure when Chuda was able to solve a case without his help, and for this reason, his sense of smell was affected. Dr. Love appears and tells her that her veil has been deactivated since Chuda made the mistake, so he could suppress the smell without the need for the veil. Chuda is chasing a criminal. Doru asks if he doesn't want to ask for help, but Chuda says he is no longer part of Section 2. Lane asks Chuda to help in Section 4. Chuda forgets his badge when talking to the criminal. They use ice to freeze him so he can't keep running. But it was a decoy, so Chuda is attacked from behind. When he is about to be finished, Inspector Vega Victor from Section 4 appears. Vega easily finishes off the criminal's attacks, demonstrating his great strength. We see that the criminal is from Demel since he has the mark. Back at the base, Chuda thanks Vega for what he did. Vega tells him that since they are not separated by many years, he should skip the formality. Chuda sees him as a brother because of this. At school, Misuzu sees Chuda from a distance. Veronica notices this and goes to tell her, but Misuzu denies it. At the base, Misuzu continues to think about what Isuku and Dr. Love told her. Lane asks Misuzu to bring something to Chuda. Misuzu is thinking about how to apologize to Chuda for the smell. Upon entering a room, she meets Vega. Misuzu asks him where Chuda is. Vega avoids the question and joins Chuda and others at the Museum of Fine Arts. At the museum, the boys start fantasizing that the paintings are like the girls at the base. These girls are at the museum and hear everything they say. Gucci on his ship receives a mission to go to Earth. In this mission, they want to invade Earth. Chuda is reading about a Takdori case. Chuda bumps into Vega, who drops his books, and among them are the works they saw at the museum. Chuda suspects that they are hiding things in Eldliv. He talks to Vega about this, who tells him that probably the higher-ups are hiding things, so if he has doubts, it's best to investigate on his own. There is an anomaly in communications due to a data virus. When connecting the badge to receive information from an email, this caused the virus to spread on the ship. A warship appears in front of the base, which fires a beam that they manage to dodge narrowly. This beam damaged one of the engines. Demel's leader from the solar system communicates with the base. He wants them to hand over Chuda, and otherwise they will attack Earth. Dr. Love says that with the resources he has on Earth, they can attack the invading ship and break its main cannon without having to hand over Chuda. Because of this, Lane decides to return the attack, and they start to fight. They destroy the main cannon, but more invading ships appear in different parts of the Earth. Chuda thinks of going with Demel. Chip hits him when he hears this. They decide to send Chuda to Earth. Chuda is in a bar. People inside it start talking about how Eldliv should hand over Chuda so that Demel doesn't cause more problems. But another person disagrees since, according to him, Demel wouldn't keep their word even if they handed him over. Demel's soldiers enter the bar. They entered because they detected Chuda's monotalion. People don't understand what the monotalion is. Chip and Misuzu are surprised that Demel is there. One person in the bar tells them that even if they knew Chuda's location, they would never give him up. Upon hearing this, Demel's soldier shoots a beam in the civilian's leg. Seeing this, Chuda gets up from the table and wants to surrender to Demel's soldiers. Misuzu shouts at him not to do it. Chuda approaches Demel's soldiers, saying that as an Eldliv member, he has the duty to protect them. Chuda tries to punch them, but it does nothing. Misuzu uses her power to hurt a soldier. Vega defends the soldier, threatening Misuzu. Chuda's aunt is watching the news on her phone. In the news, they mention that they don't know the identity of the UFO that appeared in the sky. Mimi is worried about Chuda. Eldliv's ship lands on what appears to be the moon. Lane asks where Demel's ship is. They say it doesn't seem like they are being pursued. But due to the state of the ship, they can't go very far, so it would be strange if they weren't being pursued. Chip is surprised by Vega's betrayal, but Vega easily knocks him to the floor. Chuda, equally surprised, stares at him in shock. While this happens, Vega explains that after infecting the ship and endangering Earth, Chuda must have felt a great responsibility. Despite this, he never imagined that Chuda would act this way. Chip gets up and grabs Vega's arm. Misuzu takes advantage of this to attack him. Vega quickly dodges this attack. Chuda doesn't understand what is happening. Misuzu tells him that Vega is a subordinate of Demel. Chuda has a flashback of an audio he heard at the base, where they were about to reveal the spy within Eldliv. Chuda, shocked by what is happening, asks Vega if it's all a lie. Vega interrupts him to say that he must go with Doru to Demel, and if he refuses, he can still take him injured. Chuda tells us that Doru no longer exists, and disappeared from within him. Vega thinks it's a deception, and if he takes him to the ship, they will discover it immediately. Chuda tells him to take him if he's worth something without Doru. Vega gives him 30 minutes to go with Doru, otherwise everyone will die. Misuzu is injured, and Chuda approaches to help her. The civilian who was wounded by Demel's soldiers approaches Chuda and Misuzu to ask how to help them. Misuzu, Chuda, and Chip communicate with the ship to tell them that Vega is a traitor. No one inside the ship can believe this, as they had been conducting investigations together for a long time. Misuzu believes that the message she sent to Chuda was to infect the ship with the virus. One of the girls on the ship comments that Demel's agents always have a microphone and a bomb implanted in them. Isuku says he saw nothing strange in Vega's body when he investigated him. They also tell us that they investigated his family, and they had no connections with criminals. Lane knew his father, who was a highly respected detective in Eldliv. Everyone wonders how Vega could be a spy. Dr. Love says that precisely because of everything they're saying, he could be one. Dr. Love says that Vega could be a grass. Lane doesn't understand what he means. Dr. Love explains that during the Civil Wars, there were ninjas called grass, who infiltrated enemy territory to start a family and pass on their mission to future generations. Dr. Love tells us that his father might have been a Demel spy. Everyone is still surprised by what happened. Misuzu says that despite the surprise, what he did in betraying Eldliv and endangering Earth is a fact. Chuda wants to stop him at all costs. Everyone feels the same as Chuda. Dr. Love doesn't know how to confront Demel when they surpass them in number and power. Chuda comes up with an idea. Vega is on Demel's ship, and its leader asks him how he couldn't bring the monotalion. Vega tries to justify himself, but they treat him like a common spy. Their leader says that in any case, the planet will turn into a sea of fire, and he is eager to see it. Chuda, Misuzu, and Chip arrive at the ship. Lane gives the order to prepare because soon they will be fighting against Demel. To face Demo, they will seek help from people from all planets on Earth. Chuda asks Lane for permission to fight. Lane tells him it's very dangerous without Doru. Misuzu enters the room to say that Chuda could be a hindrance due to his condition. But if Lane gives the order, she is willing to follow him anywhere. Lane gives Chuda a weapon that shoots SPH energy. Chuda thanks him. Everyone gets ready to attack Demel's ship. Lane gives the objective of stopping Vega and Demel. JR, on Demel's ship, Demel. JR asks how the suppression squadron is doing. Vega tries to stop them, saying that the deadline has not yet passed. Demel, JR doesn't seem interested and decides to attack anyway. Eldlev begins the attack. Demel responds, but the ship attacking was a decoy. Eldlev attacks from behind and damages Demel's main engine. They decide to collide with Demel's ship head-on. They start exchanging attacks, and Eldlev's ship collides with Demel's. In doing so, Sections 5, 1, and 2 enter the ship. Dr. Love gives the location of Demel. JR. Meanwhile, on Earth, they begin to shoot down the other Demel ships. All the ships begin to be taken down. Veronica and Nina are in combat. Misuzu, Chip, and Chuda are approaching Demel. JR's room. Demel's soldiers try to stop them. Chip interferes and decides to face them alone so that Chuda and Misuzu can reach their destination. Chip uses the program drive to launch a massive missile attack and quickly eliminate the soldiers. Chuda and Misuzu encounter Vega. Vega asks Chuda if he has already found Doru. Due to the lack of a response, Vega tells him that he didn't keep his promise. Misuzu confronts Vega with a barrage of attacks, which are easily defended by Vega. Vega quickly incapacitates and severely injures Misuzu. Chuda shoots him, and Vega leaves Misuzu with laser stakes embedded in the ground. Vega begins to approach Chuda, saying that his father was a great investigator at Eldlev, and he wanted to be like him, not as a Demel spy, but as a detective. This ideal changes when Chuda appears and ruins everything. Vega is angry with Chuda. Vega tells us that his entire family is held hostage by Demel, and for that reason, he made the decisions to betray Eldlev. He tells Chuda that in the same situation, he wouldn't face Demel either. Chuda agrees with him if he had asked before joining Eldlev, but currently, he would never give up. Upon hearing this, Vega attacks Chuda and knocks him to the ground. With one hand, he lifts Chuda and thrusts his laser claws into his chest. Vega asks him how he would not give up. Chuda replies that he would do so by defeating the villains and helping the people he cares about. Vega calls him greedy for wanting both. Chuda says it might be true, but it's his way of living without regrets. He starts giving examples, talking about the meals he could have eaten, and Vega doesn't understand. Chuda receives a direct hit from Vega. Chuda says he doesn't want to live with more regrets. When he says this, Doru appears again. Vega attacks Chuda again, but he quickly dodges the attack. They start fighting, now both with equal power. They clash their powers, and Misuzu gives some of her power to Chuda. Doru tells Chuda that the fight will be decided with the next blow. They collide their two strongest powers, and Chuda emerges victorious. Vega falls from the ship into space. Chuda wants to save him and succeeds. After the great victory, everyone goes to celebrate at the bowling alley. And that's how the first season of this anime ends. If you've reached this part of the video, let me tell you that you've been one of the few people to make it this far. So comment the word alien in the comments. Remember to subscribe to not miss any videos. With that said, see you in the next video.